Malaysia. I don't think anybody knows that you're supposed to do that.
Well, we can bring it back.
No, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it is
they're trying to, the Taiwanese is trying to revive certain very traditional kind of culture, which may frighten the mainland Chinese. Yeah.
Confucius.
All right, now it's 8:30. Are you waiting for any other people?
I think we can start Monday.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Monday. Skill and good evening, everyone. Welcome to MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the first week of April 6th, April 2021. And we'll be beginning of the new sutta also. MSBS is fortunate to have with us Maha Adhibalo, known as Phra Goh. He was born on July 14, 1985. He had his bhikkhu ordination under the Theravada tradition of Thai Dhamma sect at Satipatthana Monastery in Johor, Malaysia in 2008. Bante is currently the Vice President of Palelai Buddhist Temple, Singapore. Bante will be leading the homage to the Buddha and taking out 5 precepts for Buddhists. Let us compose our minds, our palms together, and welcome Bante. Over to you, Bante.
Okay, thank you, Terence. Okay, so we shall start with the opening chant, the homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And the 3 refuges. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. And the 5 precepts. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Aditnadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sutra meraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and today we are starting with a new topic, right? Thanks to Jen's suggestion on the different schools and the different kinds of practices, right? So how do we take it? Which one is authentic, which one is not, and do we reach the same goal? So this is my personal take on this multi-tradition, right? Is it the same liberation? So if you look at the photograph, all the Sangha members, different colors, right? So right from the outset, we already know everyone is different, right? appearance, everything different. The ropes also different. No, some are not one piece of rope. Some are using the influenced by the Chinese, using the Hanfu kind of the culture, and they have these ropes, yeah, something like a long sleeve or blouse kind of uniform. So it's got to do with a lot of this culture and interpretation of rules. Yeah. So from outset, we can see it's different. How about practice-wise? Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Yeah. So if you look at the map, I'm sure we know the geographical kind of standpoint, right? So Buddhism is started in Nepal, India. So if we look at the map, interestingly, India and Nepal isn't really colored, or the India isn't really colored much of these of the three colors. So if you look at the legend, the Vajrayana is orange, right? Vajrayana tradition, orange. Mahayana tradition is in yellow, and the Theravada tradition is in red. Right. So currently, Theravada tradition, which is most of the people here are in this red zone. So just curious, anyone from other traditions down here?
Well, I was born into Mahayana tradition until about 2 years ago.
Okay. How about anyone else? Okay, so in this class, I'm not criticizing, it's not a critic of any tradition. I'm trying to give a sort of objective overview on how this Buddhism is spread. So I'll be fair on both camps, both Theravada and the Mahayana. Okay, so Vajrayana and Mahayana can be classified under this thing called the Northern School Buddhism. Theravada is called the Southern School Buddhism. Yeah, this is spread south of India. So anything you see red, right, is Burma, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, Sri Lanka. So these are like southern, right? So these are the southern schools. And everything spread north, like Nepal, Tibet, China, so on and so forth, yeah, Korea, Japan. So all these are northern school Buddhism. So before we talk about these differences, I'm probably going to give you like a long storytelling on the history of why all these started. What causes these differences, right? So right from the Buddha's time, so it's about 2,500 years ago, or more than 2,500 years ago, India wasn't one country, right? It's made of like many kingdoms, and it's recorded in the Maha Sutta, the last days of the Buddha, after he got cremated, after he passed away and got cremated, 7 kingdoms, right, were to almost go to war fighting over the Buddha's relics. 7 kingdoms. So you know how heated up is the situation and how hostile the situation is in India, just like in China in those days have the romance of the 3 kingdoms. So it's a very hostile environment. Every kingdom want to eat up each other, and that's the situation in India last time. Okay, so the most powerful kingdom is the Kosala kingdom. And that was previously King Bimbisara's kingdom. Yeah, King Bimbisara was the king of this Kosala kingdom. And right after the Buddha after he left the palace and became an ascetic, right, before he started learning any ascetic practices, before he learned from any teacher, right, this King Bimbisara already headhunted this Bodhisattva Gautama, right, to be an advisor for his kingdom. Very interesting, right? He's not interested in spirituality. He just wants somebody of the same clan or somebody influential to be this advisor. So of course, our Bodhisattva Gautama, he refused. He said, "You haven't learned anything yet. No, he hasn't reached the truth, haven't found truth." So he just started his journey. So they give him time, right? Wait for him to realize the truth, and then he'll come back. So King Bimbisara agreed. Right. So that was the situation, and along the way, then there's these few other adversaries. When Buddhism sort of grew and became more prosperous, many kingdoms start to eye over this religion. Right, there's a reason, right? In probably those days, or even now, earlier on we talked about Taiwan and China, there is a psychological element to this culture and religion. You know, there's when people, if you cannot conquer people through physically, through physical means, at least you can win them over their hearts and mind. So this is the purpose of having this. The kings are very interested in sort of controlling the religion, or at least have the religion at their reign, right? So this is my own personal research. I researched the contemporary religions at the time, maybe Jainism and a few other religions. Then you can see the same names. King Bimbisara, King Pasenadi, they all do dana in those different religions, and they're all very pious to the other religions as well. But in Buddhism, we say, oh, okay, King Bimbisara is a pious Buddhist, or King Pasenadi is a pious Buddhist. So there's a stake in them trying to have a say or have some hold in the religion. So that was a case, and the turning point was when this Devadatta had this alliance with Prince Ajatasattu. So Prince Ajatasattu was King Bimbisara's son, right? And this Devadatta is the cousin and also supposedly the disciple of the Buddha. So both are the sort of supposedly, the second generation of the prominent kingdom and also the prominent religion. Oh, Jen, I saw you entering again. You have a double. Oh, he got reconnected. So I have to wait for him because he's the important person. Okay, so
just my computer because of issue with the one.
Okay. All right, so you can hear, then I shall continue. Okay, so the unholy alliance between this Prince Ajatasattu and Devadatta, right? They have this plan to kill off this King Bimbisara and kill off get rid of the Buddha from the leadership positions, right? So one can take over as the most powerful kingdom, and one can take over as the sort of the most prosperous religion at the time. So there is a political agenda those days, right? So what happened was this Prince Ajatasattu managed to successfully kill his father, or according to the story, killed his father, but at the last moment regretted killing the father. Had this order to stop release the father from this prison or the torment, but his father died, so he took over the throne as this king. Now he became King Ajatasattu. And the Buddha, however, didn't go away, right? Devadatta failed his plan, right? It is said he attempted to first try to take over the leadership position. He negotiated with the Buddha. Buddha refused to hand over the leadership position to Devadatta, right? And so it caused a schism, right? And the schism also failed. This Sariputta and Moggallana won back the 500 disciples led by Devadatta, so brought back to the Buddha again. And when the schism failed, then okay, he can't get half of the power. Then no problem. He tried to kill the Buddha. So he tried the drunken elephant, doesn't work. Even get this Prince Ajatasattu to send mercenaries to try to kill the Buddha also doesn't work. He himself personally tried to roll a large boulder down to kill the Buddha, also doesn't work. So he failed all the attempts. So at his last moments, right, supposedly he's very old and frail, and he decided, okay, no point trying to take over, he's very old already, so he wanted to go to the Buddha and seek forgiveness. And because of all this heavy negative karma, it is said that the earth was split open and hell consumed him physically, right? And so he didn't succeed in a plan to take over the religion. So what happened next is, since the Buddha is still around, and this King Ajatasattu has no choice but to make friends with the Buddha. Now, Devadatta is gone, so the next most powerful person in the religion is still the Buddha. So he has to go to the Buddha, show that he's pious Buddhist, and there you go. And after the Buddha's passing away, luckily there's no war broken up, the relics are distributed evenly. Then there's this First Buddhist Council, which is the assembly of the 500 enlightened monks to compile the scriptures or compile the teachings, at least through the oral tradition. Right. So what happened was this First Buddhist Council was sponsored by no other than King Ajatasattu. If you have 500 monks gather together, imagine they go for alms round, I think the town or the village should be very broke. So you need to have a sponsor to bring in the food, prepare all the supplies and so on. So it lasted for months, You have to recite and everybody have to repeat the teachings and have to confirm. And it took many, many months for the first Buddhist council. So this is according to the Theravada minutes of the first Buddhist council. It's open to many, maybe the Buddhist colleges studying diploma in early Buddhist studies. So what happened at the end of the first Buddhist council, when everything was settled, there's a larger group of monks, 1,000 monks walk past that area. And of course, it is the duty of the host, right? That means the 500 monks to at least come and greet them or receive them. Right? So one representative of the 500 monks, which is at least maybe one Arahant, came down and announced, right, to the one group of 1,000 monks that, okay, the meeting is over. Right, we have already sort of cemented the syllabus. Okay, these are the teachings. Right, would you want to agree and accept this as the official teaching? And interestingly, the group of 1,000 monks said no. So you want to talk about democracy, right? So it doesn't work in Buddhism. A group of 1,000 monks said no for whatever reason. Maybe they find that King Ajatasattu too suspicious. At one point want to kill the Buddha, next moment want to sponsor and try to be friendly. So historically, we know any king, any emperor who tries to meddle with the religion will more or less edit some of the text, edit some of the scripture. So maybe King Ajatasattu becoming a good guy is maybe his addition. Yeah, I don't know. So so this group of 1,000 monks said no. Yeah, so. And it's just like that. So the reason is they never heard from the Buddha personally before. They haven't heard from the Buddha personally before, which is nothing wrong. Right? So what's the moral of the story? Right? In those days, we talk about oral tradition and do not simply believe. So there's a lot of element of practice, emphasis on the practice. Right, scriptural memorization is one thing in the spirit of letter, and in the spirit of practice, there are two aspects. Right, so in the spirit of the letter, right, this Venerable Ananda supposedly memorized all the teachings, and then he sort of recited all the teachings. So interestingly, the Theravada schools or Southern schools have one version of Venerable Ananda's teachings, which normally the suttas or sutras mention, thus have I heard. Right, that's the opening statement of Venerable Ananda, then followed by whatever you can recall. And also in the northern school Buddhism, right, which is the Mahayana Buddhism, they also have thus have I heard. But they have other sutras which Theravada doesn't have. Right, so some people attribute to the addition due to the 1,000 monks. And the 1,000 monks. Last time India so big. So when Venerable Mahakassapa made the announcement, okay, by this time, everyone should gather and have this council meeting. So India is so huge, how can they spread the word? Right, last time no email, no SMS, no phone call, no social media. So it's very hard to get a message across, right? So by the time, let's say they gather and they travel, it takes so long. Last time no aeroplane, no vehicle transport, right? And how can 1,000 monks ride on the caravan? Right, impossible. Right, you need many horses, so which is logistically very costly. So they travel by foot. Right, so when they travel by foot in a large country, it is quite impossible to arrive at a destination immediately. Right, so then right after the first Buddhist council, then you have certain differences, and second Buddhist council again, also sponsored by another king. Then the arrangement of the scriptures were also very different from the modern categorization. And in the third, or after the second Buddhist council, then the schools split into 18 schools of Buddhism. Imagine one school from the Buddha's time split into 18 schools. So in the second Buddhist council, they weren't happy with the interpretation of the monastic rules, basically, right? One is liberal. They are flexible based on the which country they are in, so they try to adapt and blend. While the other school is very conservative. They try to stick to the follow by the book, right, as strictly as possible. So in the second Buddhist council, they end up with two conclusions, two verdicts. There are actually two second Buddhist council. There are two. So the first of the second Buddhist council, everyone met amicably, everyone agreed with all the rules, and so that's it. And what happens next is the conservative group don't agree with the meeting, so they form their own meeting. They form their own meeting and then have their own private meeting, which slowly evolve future into this Maha Sanghika, which is we call the greater Sangha. So these are the second two of the second Buddhist councils. So anybody knows the reason why they have two meetings? Okay, this is my personal take. If the Buddhist council, there are many monks, and they were to sort of air their grievances or their differences, and they have like at least a huge vote on each camp, then that is actually a potential schism, potential kind of schism. So anybody knows when we talk about last year's series on the schism, it's a very heavy karma, heavy negative karma. So nobody wants to go to hell. So everybody agrees. Okay, whatever you say, yes, okay, we agree. And then we go to a private meeting on our own, then we disagree. So this is the second Buddhist council, right? So they have two meetings on their own. So the Mahasanghika is advocate for the Bodhisattva ideal. Bodhisattva ideal. They're saying the conservative group is to buy the book. How can they're so rigid and claim to be arahants, right? So this is their sort of at least their theoretical kind of take on the issue. Right, so that's in short. So what happens next is they further split into 18 schools, And I believe the split isn't caused by a schism. Again, it's many private meetings, and each school or each system have their own style of teaching, and thus develop many schools. Just like a modern day, we have Sri Lankan tradition or Burmese tradition, or even in the Burmese tradition, there are so many minor subgroups coming up. You have this Marsi tradition, or the Pao tradition, or the Thai forest tradition. So many groups, but we don't call it schism, right? Although their styles of teaching or the style of chanting and their way of practice are distinctly, you can see is different. If let's say you go to their classes or go to their places for retreat, is obviously very different, but they don't call it a schism, right? Because it's developed over that area in a different context, and over time it becomes like that, evolves into this state, right? So that's also partly the reason why many of the schools don't allow the other schools to stay with each other. Some monasteries, they are, if let's say you go to visit another monastery, they ask, okay, which school are you from? So if you belong to a different school, okay, you can stay for a short while the most. If let's say they are welcoming, they let you stay for a short while, right? They probably won't want you to stay for long term, because doctrinally or practice-wise, they're afraid that you might affect their system. So this is the reason why some monasteries or temples, they don't allow different schools to sort of live and coexist. So it's the same throughout every religion, every tradition, the same thing. Yeah. So there's a reason to preserve their sort of kind of culture. So this is their one of their reasons, right? So so there are 18 schools. So when we talk about the third Buddhist council, King Asoka's time. So this is the king which successfully did what his forefathers failed to do. So interestingly, King Asoka is I think the grandson of this King Ajatasattu, right? So they have a history of killing their fathers. So King Ajatasattu killed his father, King Bimbisara, and so on down the line. And King Asoka also killed his father and ascended the throne. So that is the karma of being of that lineage. Yeah? So what happened was also, again, it's part of the Buddhist studies. The 18 schools of Buddhism are very hard to unify, right? So after King Asoka sort of conquered most of the ancient India of those days, he needed something spiritual, kind of religion to unify the people. So somehow, his opinion was Buddhism. Also, he had insider in Buddhism. His biological younger brother is actually a leader of one of the 18 schools. One of the leader of the 18 schools. Yeah. So there you see. So there he has the connections, and what happened was, according to the official narrative, he sent a minister to try to solve the issue, try to unify the 18 schools. So they had a meeting. So they had a meeting, and during the meeting, this minister or the general asked the representatives of the 18 schools, do you want to unify as one? So each of the 18 schools say, no. The other schools don't practice the same thing. They are not pure, whatever reason, right? So they don't want to hold the Patimokkha together even. During the new and full moon days, the monks are supposed to gather together to recite the precepts, right? So obviously, each school interpret the precepts differently. So like even nowadays, right, the different Theravada schools also have different interpretation of the rules. Like maybe certain schools, maybe certain drinks are considered food and certain drinks are not considered food. So different schools have different take, right? So same thing. So the King Asoka's time, 18 schools have different takes. So what happened was this minister beheaded the rest of the 17 schools of the representatives. Yeah, he asked one by one, do you want to unify and become one school? So if they say no, then beheaded them until one survivor left. And that survivor coincidentally is King Asoka's younger brother. So he was brought back to King Asoka and was asked, right, how to unify and these 18 schools. So they had a plan to have this third Buddhist council. So in the third Buddhist council, what they did was they had this entry kind of examination. Right, before you enter the third Buddhist council, you have to answer a question. So that question being posed is a very pro-sectarian kind of question. So if they do not fulfill the criteria to match that particular school of thought, then that monastic is asked to disrobe. Right? They're given a white piece of attire and asked to change, remove their robes and change. So the 17 schools of Buddhism were sort of persecuted in King Asoka's time. So left with only one school. So that's how he unified Buddhism, right? So our Theravada school comes from this King Asoka school. King Asoka school. So he sent missionaries to the rest of Southeast Asia, maybe to some other places like even Greece or Afghanistan, whatever it is. So these are the missionaries he sent. And Sri Lanka, right, the most successful case. So what happened next is the fourth Buddhist council, right, after the King Asoka's time, the survivors of the 17 schools also later evolved and maybe they combined whatever it is and became some different schools altogether, and they unified under a different king to form another Buddhist council, the fourth Buddhist council, right, to compile the Northern School Buddhism scriptures. So what happened was Sri Lankan started first, which is the Theravada school, is to put down from oral tradition into written language. So this is the first of the fourth Buddhist council, which is the Pali Canon, which is the Theravada tradition. And the Northern school, which is India, the king of India, he's like thinking, hey, how come the Sri Lankans can do it? No, India should do it also. So they had their own fourth Buddhist council. So they gathered the sort of the surviving schools and they formed their Northern School of Buddhism teachings. So if you want to compare, so you move on the next slide. Right, so these are the teachings. So I'm sorry I have to use the Chinese diagram because I can't find it on the internet, the Mahayana classification. So I have to request from a Mahayana monk. So he has to send me this file. Right, so basically, if let's say you can read on the left, right, that's the Southern School Buddhism, that's Theravada tradition, the main three canon, the three baskets of scripture. So we have the Vinaya Pitaka on the left, which is all the precepts, and the Sutta Pitaka in the center, which are all the teachings, and the Abhidhamma Pitaka on the right, which is all the more metaphysical and more profound teachings. Also sort of extracted from actually most of them from the sutta. Yeah. Okay, so these are the three baskets in the Theravada tradition. So if you look at the Chinese one, which is the Northern School Buddhism, so can Terence move the mouse? Can the mouse be seen? Okay, so you can see. So if you look at the first column on the left, okay, so yeah, so this is the first column. So you have the Jing, which is the sutras, right? And you move down, which is the Li, which is all the precepts, and the down Lun, which is all the called the commentaries. So they do not have Abhidhamma Pitaka, standalone Abhidhamma Pitaka. So their Abhidharma is part of the commentaries. So it's included everything in the commentaries. Yeah. So if you look down further, you have the Tibetan version, right? Yeah, Tibetan versions. Okay. So if you move up to the second row, so Da Cheng means Mahayana school, and down Xiao Cheng means the Hinayana school. So if you look at the Hinayana school, this Xiao Cheng, right, on the right, you have an open bracket, is Ahan Jing called the Agamas. So interestingly, all the, or the most of the Sutta Pitaka in the Theravada tradition can be found in these Agamas, in this sort of Hinayana classification. Right, and if you look at the Da Cheng, right, this Mahayana classification on the right, the most right hand, then you have more and more scriptures. You have the Prashna Paramita, the Pure Land, and many other collections, many categories, Avatang, Saka, the sutras, and whatever not. So you have many sutras, which all the sort of the combined 17 surviving schools, all their knowledge all pulled together, and you have many sutras which the Theravada doesn't have. So the most common misconception is the Mahayanists will equate Theravada as Hinayana, which is actually not correct. So in the Northern School Buddhism, they have both Mahayana and Hinayana. So the Hinayana schools are like the, let's say the Vinaya schools or the Abhidharma schools. They acknowledge the Da Cheng Jing, which is the Mahayana scriptures, they acknowledge. So it's actually part of the Northern school, Hinayana. Whereas Theravada schools, interestingly, don't acknowledge the Mahayana sutras. It's not part of the Pali Tipitaka, right? Whereas in the Northern school Buddhism, they have the Mahayana school and the Hinayana schools, right? Which is the Northern school traditions, right? So they have all these scriptures. So today I've talked about differences and the historical context, and I'm not judging to say which is authentic and which scriptures are not authentic. I'm just giving you the objective overview and how come there's so many diverse doctrinal scriptures and diverse practices, right? It's because from the first Buddhist council all the way to the third Buddhist council is all oral tradition, is passed down from word of mouth, right? Only in the fourth Buddhist council that is put into writing, right? And along the way, from the first Buddhist council to the third Buddhist council, there's so many disagreements on which school to follow and not to follow. So again, this is just overview. So the moral of the story is from this short sharing for today's class is not to take the scripture, right? We follow the Kalama Sutta. Do not simply believe what the scriptures say. So this is my takeaway for today's lesson. Okay, so I'll end the short sharing before I bore you all to death with the history and open the floor to questions.
Bhante, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Go to the previous slide. There is some places I don't know. What is this? Kalmikia, Tufa, Torguts, which is on the left side,
like,
very far.
Yeah, it looks like in the region of Europe already, yeah?
Oh,
yeah,
so
the Middle East or Europe region. So probably,
small area.
Yeah, probably they didn't survive. There is an account in the later edition in the canon, this Milinda Panha. This Milinda Panha Sutta, you can look for it. There's this monk called the Nagasena. He was like a missionary and sent to Greece, sent to the Greek Empire to have sort of like a debate, a verbal kind of discussion with the king there on philosophy and about Buddhism and so on. Yeah. So maybe there's some interest and some people took up to the religion. And of course, I don't think it survived. Yeah?
Okay, second question, Bhante. The big vehicle, the big one, right?
Yeah,
On
yeah,
the second
Mahayana.
slide, the Mahayana.
Yeah.
Where the sutra come from actually? Where is, because the content are different. So where is the source?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, most of the contents come from the second Buddhist Council and also the Fourth Buddhist Council.
So they claim that this also come from the Buddha, right?
Yeah, because the scriptures start off with Venerable Ananda's opening, thus have I heard. So in the Chinese, they call it 如是我闻, yeah.
The content is very different from the Pali Canon.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Those sutras on the very right column, right? Like if let's say there's Pure Land or Prajna Paramita, the Heart Sutras, all these, you cannot find it in the Pali Canon at all.
So what is actually happening? I mean, just does it mean that Venerable Ananda did not recite this at the first council? That's why it's not captured, or it is different source altogether?
Yeah, because it's not passed down through many generations, right? And so many schools. So how many people can memorize everything, right? So some monks, they in the first Buddhist council, they assign certain monks, okay, you remember this segment. Okay, group B monks, you remember this segment, something like that. So they have allocation. So if let's say that particular group of monks have certain disagreement and they decide to join another camp, another school, right? Let's say there's a new school forming. So the previous school will probably lose their oral tradition or content.
Yeah, okay. So the first council result is the small vehicle or the Tipitaka or the Pali Canon, which is now used for the Theravada, but the big vehicle content was not mentioned there. However, it is there, and then they also claim that this is coming from the Buddha himself.
Yeah, correct.
So, but okay, by the way, there is another perspective on this, right? How there is a bodhisattva path coming in the big vehicle, which is not mentioned in the Pali Canon mostly. Why there are two distinctions here?
Yeah, so again, the bodhisattva, this content again come from the second Buddhist council, and the Mahasangika have their sort of private meetings. So they, according to their group of monks, they have this oral tradition, and they met, and they, that's what they recorded.
So, so it is like a very, there is a clear line, in the path itself, right? The Pali Canon mostly mention going to Arahantship as a Sawaka Buddha, and then the big vehicle mostly going towards the direction of Bodhisattva path. So I don't know whether it is possible that Venerable Ananda did not recite specifically for the big vehicle path, the Bodhisattva, in the first council, because it's
well,
not
if you take the scripture at face value, right? If it starts off with "Thus have I heard," you just give a benefit of the doubt. Okay, might be a possibility it's recited by Venerable Ananda, and then again we have again, even in the Theravada community, we also suspect, some of scholars suspect the Theravada canon also have certain later additions. Some of the suttas are added later and also have "Thus have I heard," yeah?
That's correct. Because even in the Pali Canon itself, there is some inside there. There are people mention, "Oh, this is not logical. It may be added later on. It is not the real." But yeah, this. Okay. So the big vehicle, according to the first council, it is not mentioned. However, people can also see it from the other perspective, which is the result of the, let's say, the big vehicle path, right? Whether there is editing, coming up as a result. Whether really, because we don't only look at the books, right? Scripture. Sometimes we also want to see the real happening, the actual case which is happening. So do you think that the big vehicle, because of certain things that happen in the Mahayana tradition, that actually are also real in this case, which is actually leading to the Buddhahood?
Okay. So the terminology of the big and small vehicle, if let's say you want to take most of the scholastic opinion on the history, if let's say, based on the current understanding of the history, right, because of the schools being formed or split in whatever time chronological reason, then we can say that the term Mahayana and Hinayana is formed later. Right? So probably that word is probably inserted into the scriptures, or maybe it's already in the scriptures but taken out of context due to the splitting of the schools, as taken into a different context.
Okay. I just want to ask a simple question then. Just the big vehicle teaching come from Venerable Ananda or come from the Buddha? What do you think, Bhante?
It's hard to say. Yeah, so it's 2,500 over years ago. So again, in the next lesson, then I will share on how to sort of decipher, how to make out of these differences, and is the accuracy important? So this is the first food for thought, and secondly, how you interpret it. Right. So these are the two main factors.
Okay, Bhante. Thank
right.
you.
If let's say on paper, on word, it can be politically correct. But if a person doesn't have right view, they can interpret wrongly. Yeah. So even the Buddha's, the disciples in Buddha's time, in the previous few series, we talk about the Asubha meditation. Disciple hear from the Buddha's own mouth also can commit suicide, can get into depression and commit suicide. So again, the second factor on interpretation is very important. How you digest and how you interpret it.
Okay, I have another question, Bhante. Sorry. So Buddha in the Pali Canon, Buddha Gautama in the Pali Canon mentioned mainly on the Sawaka path, which is the hearer path. Is it possible that Sama Sambuddha do not teach the Bodhisattva path?
That is in the Theravada point of view, yeah?
Meaning he doesn't teach, during his time.
At least not in the Theravada scriptures.
It is not taught, or it is not covered in Theravada.
Not mentioned in the Theravada scriptures, yeah.
Okay. So there is a possibility that he also actually teaches, but not captured or mentioned in the Pali Canon.
Yeah, maybe there's a possibility, yeah.
Okay, Bhante. All right. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? I think I saw a chat.
Bhante, I'm interested to know the the Chinese I can't read, but I'm interested to know what this Jing is comprised in the Ta Cheng. Can you know how to read?
Some of the words, yeah. My Chinese isn't very outstanding as well.
The first one is what?
The first one is Jing means sutras.
No, under the Ta Cheng, right? They have the bracket 2, 4, 6 bu, is it 6 books or something like that?
Yeah, 6 categories. Actually, there's more. These are just examples only. So the first one I know I can recognize, Phra Goh. That means the Prajna collection. Yeah.
The second one you don't know, so.
Yeah, my Chinese is very poor, so you have to ask.
The second one is called Bao Ji Bu.
Okay. Yes.
Bao Ji Bu means the precious gathering. So the first word is mean precious, right? The second word means gather. Bao Ji Bu. And then the third one is Da Ji. The third one is Da Ji. So Da is Maha, and then Ji is collection. And then the fourth one is Huayan Bu. So I think Huayan
I think it's
is
a
actually
name, right?
about cosmology.
Taken from what?
Huayan Jing is huge. I don't know. I can't tell you. And then the following one is Niepan Bu. So there will be Nibbana. And then Wu Da Bu Wai Chong Dan Yi Qing. Then the last one is the rest of them. So there are 6.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
At least I know what is inside here.
Yeah, so Angie, type this Kalmykia is in Russia.
Yeah, I just checked on Wikipedia.
Okay, so thanks for the correction. Yeah, so yes, it's in Russia.
Okay, that means the just now Simi mentioned this one. This one is Nibbana. It teach Nibbana path also.
No, it's Maha Parinibbana, Niepan.
Is it?
Means Parinirvana Sutras.
The Digha Nikaya 16?
No, it's the passing away of the Buddha.
Yeah.
So they have a whole different collection.
Different from the Digha Nikaya 16?
Yeah, there's some differences. Yeah.
Ante, there is a famous university which is Nalanda University long ago. What was actually taught there? Is it only the Pali Canon or everything?
Based on what I understand from history, you know, the Journey to the West story, this Xuan Zhang, yeah? So he went to Nalanda University to study the scriptures and learned Sanskrit language. So he's able to master Sanskrit language to be able to translate everything into Chinese. So Nalanda, I think, is mostly Mahayana kind of university. But in the Buddha's time, there is called I think the Talaxia University. So that was where Angulimala was sent to study. So it was already popular, but it was like probably a Hindu kind of university. Yeah.
Okay, Bante.
Bante.
Yeah.
But there's 3 questions in the Facebook.
Okay.
All right, I'll combine the first 2, which are quite relevant to each other. It is said that Mahayana believe Bodhisattva, which is one level after Arahant, but Theravada don't think so. Which state Arahant is the highest rank before Buddhahood, which then lead to Buddha?
Yeah, okay. So the Theravada will subdivide Bodhisattva into 3 kinds of Bodhisattva path. So there's a Bodhisattva path aiming for Sammasambuddha, which is the Supreme Buddha. And there's another Bodhisattva path aiming for Pacceka Buddha, Silent Buddha. And there's another Bodhisattva path aiming for the Arahant Buddha or the Sawaka Buddha. So there's actually 3 kinds of options, right? So the Theravada Bodhisattva path is actually the 3rd kind, aiming for the Sawaka Buddha or the Arahant, yeah? So depending on which path you want to take, so in the Mahayana tradition, they preferably aim for the Sammasambuddha path, yeah? So that's why in their scriptures, they have, I think, 50 over stages of Bodhisattva practice. You can't find it in the Pali Canon.
Right. So continue the second question is, for layperson, how to train oneself to lead to Arahantship, or how do we plant our seed towards that? Does that include the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path?
Yeah, definitely. The Noble Eightfold Path, always mindful of impermanence all the way. You can listen to my previous talks. All the theory is there. The main thing is, we ourselves have to practice.
All right. Third question is Khuddaka Nikaya a later addition of the 4 origin Nikayas?
Yeah, that's the segment of the suttas that some of the scholars claim it's added later, which is not consistent with the other main bodies of suttas.
All right, that's all from the Facebook. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Hey, if any other questions here? Okay, yeah, today is a long Q&A and a theory. So it's 9:25, we have a short break. 9:30, I'll see you back for the guided meditation. Okay, so we are back. Okay, so I resume the rest. I'm not going to turn on the cameras. So, Whitley, you ready? Okay. All right, so we are going to find a comfortable sitting position. Okay, so today's theme is on knowing, or rather seeing the true Dhamma based on personal experience. You know, how you feel at the moment to moment, what's the cause and effect, what kind of thoughts bring you what kind of results. Yeah. So this is the real Dhamma, it's not scripture. Of course, we've talked a lot about scripture in the past few series, and so now I put it in practice, and it's for you to quite ehipasiko, experience for yourself. So what we're going to do is more or less the same routine. We're going to now visualize the body, starting the external parts of the body, reach the hairs, well and happy, from head to toe. Every time you think of a new area, new patch of hair, then you need to generate this right thought of loving kindness, wish it well and happy. And all these hairs are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death. So actually, we are using thoughts of impermanence, reduce this greed or clinging. Then all these hairs, right, they grow long, and they get oily, sweaty, dirty. And they turn white. Sometimes they crack, and eventually they fall off. Lots of hairs falling off. So we keep on thinking of the birth and death cycles of the hair. The more the merrier. Right? Hair growing, hair falling, hair growing, hair falling, and many times. So this will produce this detachment. So my takeaway is anytime you mention, you meditate and you experience stress or tension, then something is wrong. Then you need to troubleshoot. So that is actually dukkha, right? First noble truth. And We need to identify, right, troubleshoot the cause of this tension is always due to craving. So to reduce craving or overcome craving, you need to apply the right thought on the Eightfold Path. So we're always thinking of loving kindness and impermanence. So now this is just the visual cognitive aspect. Okay, then we can ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? And we tell the hairs not to go through birth and death. And the next part of the body are the nails, right? Fingernails and toenails, we wish them well and happy. So all the nails are subject to birth and death, right? They grow long and they collect dirt. Sometimes they discolor and they go through wear and tear, scratches and cracks. Sometimes they even chip off. Every time we scratch something hard or cut our nails, the nails will fall off. So keep thinking of the birth and death cycle of the nails. Nails growing, nails falling. Again, we think many cycles, the more the merrier. This create this detachment. So in every meditation we do all the time is always mindful of impermanence. This is the main focus. So whatever object is or meditation we use, we add it later. So it's actually impermanence of the body. And if we think of loving kindness, then it's impermanence of loving kindness. Right, so the key emphasis is always on impermanence. And we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? And we tell it not to go through birth and death. In the next part of the body, we're going to think of our teeth. We're going to wish all the teeth inside the mouth well and happy. All the upper rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all the lower rows of teeth, may they be well and happy. And all these teeth are subject to birth and death. So they change shape and size, and they get dirty, they discolor. All the plaque buildup, right? Turn yellow and turn brown. And when they decay, it turn black. And all the tooth cavities, they grow holes. And you get loose and shaky. And eventually they drop off. And then we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? And we tell the teeth not to go through this birth and death. And the next part of the body is the skin. We're going to wish all the skin well and happy from head to toe. And again, every new patch of skin you visualize and you generate the thought, wish it well and happy. And all the skin are subject to birth and death. And so they get oily, sweaty, and dirty. And they wrinkle up when it's older. And it has all kinds of skin problems. Rashes, boils, pimples, cracks, and so on. And the dead skin fall off every day. So skin keeps growing and falling, growing and falling. So you keep thinking of the birth and death cycle many, many times. And then we can ask ourselves, are this skin truly self? And we tell the skin not to go through this birth and death. And next up, we are going to isolate our attention to one small area below the nostril, above the upper lip. So there's no need to visualize anything, no need to force or coerce the mind there, just a gentle attention to feel the contact of your in and out breathing. So this is restricted mind training. Yeah? So the smaller the area, the better. No need to think of your diaphragm, your windpipe, your lungs. Just feel below the nostril. So again, when we inhale, we wish the breath well. Exhale, wish the breath happy. No need to control the breathing, natural breathing, reflex action. So the first step is to make friends in the breath. Have a loving kindness to the breath. So no matter which meditation object you use, we use the standard Eightfold Path formula, especially on the right thought. So the loving kindness is to reduce the craving of aversion. And so once that is down, the mind is happy, contented, at peace, then we can introduce the truth. Yeah? So that is the reality of impermanence. So we're going to have the right thought of impermanence. So again, inhale, exhale, arising, passing away of the breath. Yeah, you can use whatever label you want. You can use birth and death, rising and falling. Then again, if let's say from different tradition, you can couple, let's say the Thai forest tradition or Thai tradition, they can use Buddho in, Bud out to, yeah. So whatever label you want to use, again, although it gives slightly different results, but the whole idea is to produce right thoughts, wholesome thoughts. Always at any point of time of meditation, any form of tension means there is dukkha, right? So you always need to troubleshoot. And keep applying the relevant right thought. Okay, then we can move on to another meditation. We are now radiating loving kindness. So this time around it's a directional kind of meditation. Again, for my routine, there's no need to visualize. You're just going to wish all beings in front well and happy. Because anytime you visualize, it's a form of stereotyping. There's a kind of judgment, prejudgment. You're limiting the boundless mind. So the whole idea is just a gentle wish, all beings in front well and happy, no need to push. And if, let's say, there's a certain image that pops in your mind, you just treat it as a side effect, a byproduct, and the focus is on wishing. And then come back to ourselves, and we're going to wish all beings behind well and happy. Or even this directional one, yeah, there is a certain form of restriction because it's not boundless enough. So later on, then we can compare. Yeah? So now you remember how this emotion is like, what is the tension or stress level. And then we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings on the left well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we are going to wish all beings on the right well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. And we wish all beings above well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. Then we wish all beings below well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. So again, this time round, we fill the whole body with loving kindness from head to toe, including the inner parts of our body. So whatever sensation that arise, you just treat it as passerby. No need to cling and no need to push it away. So we just wish it well and happy. New sensation arise, well and happy. New sensation arise, well and happy. Again, this is still restricted, right, within the confines of the body. And you remember this feeling or emotion of this loving kindness at a base level. And now we are going to expand into a more boundless kind of loving kindness. We're going to wish all beings in all directions above, below, and all across. We wish all beings in the entire universe well and happy. So again, no need to push the mind. Just radiant loving kindness, just gentle wish. And in the meantime, any new sensation that arises in the expanded area, we wish it well and happy. So the concept of all beings is a kind of perception, part of the mental formation. Yeah. So any new contact, new formation, we wish all dharmas, all beings well and happy. Never leave the mind idle or stagnant for more than 2 seconds. So in my meditation routine, lots of thinking. Yeah? Cannot do nothing. Because once you just idle, and the mind will naturally cling onto something else. If it doesn't cling on something skillful, means it clings on something unskillful. And things like daydreaming, or maybe sleeping, right? So again, this is experiential. You can experience for yourself. The more you produce right thought or skillful thought, then you can experience the paradox of this thinking, consistent thinking, which is the mind gets more calm. Yeah. And if you find that your mind has getting more and more peaceful or settled down, then you can remember this emotion of loving kindness in this boundless state. And of course, not forgetting to keep generating loving kindness. Yeah, so whatever tradition, and they also have mantra chanting, chant many times, millions and millions of times. So actually the whole idea is not to put a cap, not to put a limit. You have to keep on producing this wholesome thought as much as possible. So for this case, we are doing loving kindness. And in previous sessions, we have switched to different sublime states like compassion or appreciative joy or even equanimity. Yeah? So whatever reflection you use that is wholesome, whole idea is keep on doing it and mindful of its impermanence. Okay, so before we conclude the session, again, just another gentle reminder from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. And those suttas I quote can be put into practice, so that's why I quote them. Yeah, so it mentions if a person were to practice this boundless loving kindness, be it standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, right? Then this is the highest conduct. So without further ado, if you're ready, you can physically conclude or end the meditation, but mentally, still can generate right thoughts. Okay. It's 10 o'clock. Okay, any further questions or problems?
Bante, I have a question. Just
Ah,
now,
yeah.
you mentioned in the third council, right, under King Asoka, you mentioned there is a beheading cases for the other 17 school.
Yeah.
Beheading, meaning is death.
Yeah.
Wow. Then it is endorsed by King Asoka? It is endorsed by...
He sent this, according to official narrative, he didn't instruct the minister properly. He just leave him to settle the issue. So no, given the empowered by the king, so that's his way of doing it.
But it is not. It was allowed in that sense. I mean, it happened.
Yeah, it happened.
So the representative or the abbot of the 17 school?
Yeah, representatives. Yeah.
The rep. Okay. All right, Bante.
I believe it was a miscommunication. I remember I read somewhere that the king instructed them to like make them come to terms with the one school, but the commander in charge just took into his hands to start killing those who disagree. I read somewhere, yeah. It was not instructed by the king to ask him to kill people.
Okay, so there you have it.
One day, this King Asoka was the conqueror also.
Just
17 people is very little for him.
Yeah. He killed many people. Yeah, so to him it's nothing. Yeah.
The thing is this: Buddhism has proud itself to be like we spread the teaching without even spilling one drop of blood. So knowing this, right, that the claim is not true anymore.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
But
claim is
actually, I think he wanted to convert this King Asoka felt guilty with all his killing and murdering during his war times. And then he turned to Buddhism with the influence of the new wife who's a Buddhist. So he wanted to convert, but then the message, the instructions given out was like misunderstood by his soldiers. He did not endorse the killing, but it just happened, yeah.
Yeah, very sad.
Okay, any other questions?
Okay, there's 2 questions in the Facebook.
Okay.
Do you want to take it?
Okay, sure, yeah.
All right, continue to the last question about the Kudaka Nikaya. The questioner asked why it was added in a later stage and what is the real reason for the additions.
Well, the real reason I do not know. The compilers and editors at the time they added it, probably they have certain reason to do so, or certain agenda. Yeah. So again, that is a certain spectrum of scholars who feel that is added. Of course, there are people who take it that is original. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bante. Another question is about Abhidhamma. Bante, from your understanding, is Abhidhamma part of the Buddha teaching?
Okay, the original Abhidhamma, right? Most of it are the extracted from the suttas, the important points. There are many things in the sutta, like the Buddha teach how to be a good husband, how to be a good wife. Sometimes maybe the monks not so interested. They just want the key points to just meditate, right? So they compile certain key points, about the 5 aggregates, the 12 links, dependent origination, and all the 18 elements, whatever elements, and so on. So all these are the initial, right? Abhidhamma. Then, of course, there are commentaries and sub-commentaries, which makes the original Abhidhamma looks very different.
All right, thank you, Bante. That's all from Facebook.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, but of course, you want to talk about originality. One of the books, the points of controversy is clear evidence. It is formed also in the Third Buddhist Council. The other schools were refuted in these points of controversy. Right, all the other 17 schools, the points are brought forward and were disputed in these points of controversy. So again, it's clear evidence is sort of categorized later. All right.
But the Abhidhamma was mentioned in the Pali Canon, Bante.
It's in the third basket.
Yeah, so it means that it was so-called validated by in the first Buddhist Council by the Theravada elders.
In the first Buddhist Council, if I'm not wrong, Venerable Ananda recited the suttas, and Venerable Upali recited these Vinaya, and then nobody recited Abhidhamma. So it's it's classified or invented in the Third Buddhist Council. Yeah, but most of the points from Abhidhamma are actually taken from the suttas.
So you are saying that the Abhidhamma is like the excerpt or the
in a way, yeah,
from sutta.
Yeah.
There are many things in Abhidhamma was not mentioned in the sutta. I don't know because anyway, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anyway. Those many things that are not mentioned are probably found in the commentaries or sub-commentaries.
Okay.
Things like, for example, Javana moments or Kalapas, these aren't found in the original Abhidhamma. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if there's no questions, then we can end the session, dedicate merits, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
This is in Qingming period, right? Can we dedicate merits to all those unseen beings?
Yeah. It's actually part of the chant already. So in the Theravada tradition, also same thing. We don't wait for a special day. We can dedicate anytime. 24/7, 365 days, anytime can dedicate. Yeah. Okay, so this is again out of cultural reasons. We have this special period to have gratitude to the ancestors. Those who want special how to call it, prayer right? Then again, this is, and you need to be more serious. So whatever merits we've accrued through the meditation or through positive contemplation to sort of remove these the differences or discrimination or misunderstanding towards the other traditions or different schools, right? And sort of be more open or more objective to find the truth and the real Dhamma, right? So this is the inner Dhamma, right? So this it itself is a very meritorious process. So we're going to dedicate these merits. Anumodana, yeah? Akasata Japumata Devanaga Mahitika Punyang Tang Anumoditva Chirang Rakantu Loka Sasanang Etavata Jamhehi Sampadang Punya Sampadang Sabe Deva Sabe Puta Sabe Sata Anumodantu Sabba Sampati Siddhya. Transference of merits to departed. Idang me nyati nang hotu, sukita hotu nyata yo. Idang me nyati nang hotu, sukita hotu nyata yo. Idang me nyati nang hotu, sukita hotu nyata yo. And aspiration, imina punya kamena, mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, so that's it for tonight's first episode. So we'll carry on with this topic next week. So any announcements from Terence?
No announcement, Bante. Thank
Okay,
you,
no
Bante.
announcement, then yeah. Okay, thank you
Thank
and
you.
good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Bante.
No problem.
Good night. Sadhu,
Good
sadhu,
night,
sadhu.
sadhu.
You.